Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Eye of the Watcher podcast, where we give you all the sport insight you need to get hyped about League of Legends esports. Today, we're doing more of a topical episode. I'm really excited. I have Manny over here with me, and we're just going to jump right into the first topic we're going to talk about is how celebrities can bring awareness to esports. And this basically came in from Ninja's recent stream. If you don't know what happened, about 2 weeks ago, I think it was, Ninja was streaming with Drake. He was streaming with Juju, who's an NFL rookie. He was streaming with rapper Travis Scott, and it was just crazy. Twitch records were broken. He had over 600K views at the same time. And this is like a single player stream record. I think before it was by Dr. Disrespect and Tyler One, which are around the mid to high 300K. So that was absolutely crazy. And we're wondering, is this possible for League of Legends? Can celebrities or high-profile people bring awareness or more views to League of Legends streams? Manny, what do you think?
So I want to say yes, but I don't see it, right? I think it's Fortnite being like the recent phenomena. It's like everything aligned perfectly for this to happen, right? Mm-hmm. And I think one of the big things, especially because me and you have been playing even together like Fortnite recently, right? I think the game is really easy to pick up. It is hard to master, but it is really easy to play, right? There's no mechanics involved. There's nothing involved. And League of Legends is my first true PC game. And from now on, like I've been kind of like only playing PC games, but it was my first PC game. And to this day, I still struggle sometimes with like a keyboard and mouse, right? And I've been playing for 3 years now. And it's like, that to me is so rough. And, you know, we have all these memes of, PC master race. And look, I'll agree, like PC's beautiful machines. They can run anything. They can mod everything. It's so much fun. But I feel like Fortnite having the accessibility of crossplay of, you know, like cross-platform play, which Drake, Travis, and Juju were all playing on PlayStation, right? They weren't on PC. As far as I know, they weren't. Any of them were on PC. So I feel like it just made it easier, right? I think it's kind of tough to say because there's so much going into League of Legends, right? That if you haven't played PC games, then you know, you might not get something. And it's like, so like these guys just play games, you know, and their downtime, right? And so does you know, basketball players have been playing like PUBG and stuff and streaming it, and it's really cool. But at the same time, it's just, again, these games that are available on console.
Yeah. I think one thing that we're talking about is, you know, Fortnite as a first-person shooter, really easy to just pick up and just go with, and you know, I think PC gaming is something that's very, very, in the past has been very niche. You know, it's been with like the nerdy, geeky types like us. And, you know, we're really into what we do. We spend a lot of time playing it. People that are playing like League of Legends and other games that are MOBAs, you know, they were playing StarCraft. They were playing Warcraft back in the day. And these were very like intense, like difficult games to actually be good at and to get really into, compared to anything on the or not anything on the console, but console games. People have been playing FPS since what? GoldenEye? Before GoldenEye, you know, people have been playing these games.
Doom,
yeah,
like,
exactly.
Doom probably is the first one. And yeah, exactly. And it's just like, oh, you know, like, and it ends up being like console gaming is cheaper, right? Nowadays, like an Xbox One, a PS4 are $300. If that. I mean, I think they've had deals that are $250, right? A PC that runs games as well as it like, you know, a gaming PC is not going to be $300. It's going to be closer to $1,000, right?
Yep.
And like the higher up you go, the better your PC can run, and then you can stream. And there's so many intricacies, right? And again, you have like that, but I think also just the whole tidal wave of Fortnite, everyone's been playing. I see so many memes on it on social media, right? And it's kind of like this, it's been kind of like a cultural explosion. Michael B. Jordan, yeah, man, I love anime. Everyone's like, what the hell? This guy's a superstar. He's hot AF and he likes anime. What the? And now people are like, oh yeah, I've loved anime my whole life. And it's like, where were you when you were like, you were making fun of me for watching Dragon Ball Z, right? And it's just like, I think we're getting kind of like in a time zone, or like in a time period timeline of all of this is more acceptable, right?
Yeah.
Like people that have grown up, the maybe closet nerds, if you want to use that, like it might not be the nicest term, but like, are like, oh yeah, I mean, he's super famous. Yeah, man, I love playing games. People are like, oh, what the hell, right? And it's just like, I think it's kind of like a mixture of everything. Kind of. And I still feel like, yeah, I mean, the League kind of started that free to play market on PC, right? That led to Fortnite saying, hey, free to play battle royale game. Yep. Perfect competition for PUBG. I just feel like it's so much harder to pick up, right? And it's like, who are you going to have? Like, I mean, unless someone plays it, you're not going to have Chris Pratt sit down, take up a keyboard and be amazing at it, right?
Yep.
And will people really watch it if that's not necessarily the boom of it right now? Maybe not. Like I'm a Cutie Pie's the biggest streamer so far for League on a consistent basis. I think maybe Tyler won. Yeah, you could argue, but like if they grabbed like a team of 4 other like superstars, like would you get that many viewers? I don't know. I maybe, right? But I think League is also not as easy to watch as Fortnite, right? You know what's going on with Fortnite.
Yeah, you're like, pointing and shooting at people. So it's like, okay, it's like, I get it. You don't get the intricacies, but League of Legends is a complicated game where I think a lot of the impressiveness of it is the intricacies that you just don't get. Like everyone knows, like, holy crap, he just shot that guy in the head that far away. That's impressive, right? You might not get like, oh, it's because he built really high and that's how he got that nice shot, or he was making sure he was blocked from this angle or that angle. Like you might not get those intricacies, but it doesn't take away much from what just happened. Versus League of Legends, it's like, wow, that crazy wave management they just pulled off 3 minutes ago that led to this amazing fight, and then the Winions happening and taking the game, like, oh, that's really cool.
It's like, oh, why did this happen? Well, again, there's and you could go even to, basic sports level, right? Basketball is very easy to watch. Soccer is very easy to watch in terms of what's the goal? You need to put the ball in the net, right? Yeah. Through the net, whatever. But then you take a game like football, NFL. Oh, that's an offside. People get like super confused. So unless you really want and care, it's like, unless you are only there to go to a bar and scream when everyone else is screaming because you saw a touchdown on the screen, but don't understand what's going on. I feel like in a way that's kind of like the level of League versus Fortnite.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. And like, again, if you're watching League, like even as a person that's been playing League for, oh my God, 8 years and been watching it for 8 years, it's still hard to see what's going on the screen because it's not 10 people like on basketball that are running around. That's something familiar to you. It's a totally different colored game with 130 plus champions, and you don't know who the 10 of them are. You don't know what's going on. You don't understand ability. Like it's just way too hard to bring casual or people that aren't familiar with League of Legends into there. On top of that, I think finding celebrities to play LoL is really, really difficult because League, again, is a game where you have to put so much time in to get good at versus, again, a FPS game on console that a lot of people have been playing. Like it's not that hard to transition to that for someone that only has 2 hours, 4 hours a week to play because their schedule is super, super busy as an athlete in traditional sports or an actor,
singer. Like I completely agree. I mean, there was times where Ninja died, was the first one to die, and then their team still ended up winning because Travis Scott like killed someone and Juju's killing because it's easy. They've been playing this game in their free time, right? You can play a match and land tilted and be a 5-minute match, a 30-second match even, right? You can be the first one to die. I feel like it's just tough for League. Would I love to see it? Of course. I mean, right? Like imagine like someone like, holy shit, Elton John, you're great at the keyboard, and now he's playing League of Legends. What the hell, right? Like I think that'd be sick. It's like Elton John. Who's your favorite character out of like this list? And he goes Tarek locks it in there. I was like, holy shit, this makes perfect sense, right? Like, I don't know. There could be funny things, right, going on. Like, there could be awesome interactions, but Elton John's not going to be able to understand what to do with QWER and then right clicking constantly. And like, right, it's just be, it's, I don't think it would be as enjoyable.
Yeah. I think the only way this could happen is like, if they played ARAM, if QtPie was like, hey, I'm playing ARAM with 4 other people that are bronze level at this game because they don't play much, but they played, like Chandler Rigg, who was on The Walking Dead. He's Carl. Yeah. You know, he had a spotlight in like season 4 or 5, somewhere around there, where like he came to watch a game and everyone's like, wow, this is so cool. And even Rick Fox playing, and everyone's like, oh, this is cool. Imagine Dragons. But like none of them stick because it just takes too much time to stay good at the game. And League is, if you're bad at the game, it's not really fun watching. You know, Fortnite's kind of the same way, but League, it's like you get nothing from it. Like if you're bad, like there's no entertainment value unless you're flaming the person. You know?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I think again, the big asterisk is Rick Fox, right? Just because he owns a fucking team for you're gonna watch Rick Fox, right? And you're gonna be like, oh wow, yeah, this guy's heart stuck silver too. All right, well,
but if you play it in like an ARAM, or if like Dominion was still around,
it could be fun. It could be funny, right? Especially because you've seen some of these personalities. So again, I agree, but I think it's just so difficult, right? And it wouldn't be record breaking. I think. I mean, Tyler. I was there for Tyler once. I was there for Dr. Disrespects. I was like, oh man, you know, like again, I don't condone what either of them ended up doing. And then coming back, but it was kind of like interesting to see. It's like, oh, how will this break it, right? And Ninjas was just something else, right? I actually didn't watch it live, but just seeing it was just like, wow, this is crazy, right? The way everything happened was just like, oh, wow, this is kind of insane. And I think that it also just comes down to like Ninja already having such a huge following already, right?
Yeah, I mean, he was already big.
He like would have 100,000,
exactly,
like 200,000. So just add Drake along, people would be like, wait, I know Fortnite. Let's watch this. You know, I mean, if you saw the news the day after, it was like Drake and streamer break Twitch record. It wasn't Ninja, and it's like that's kind of messed up, right? Because it is Ninja that did that.
Yeah,
it wasn't Drake, right? Like, yes, the fact that he played with Drake, sure. Imagine it was Barack Obama, right? Like that thing would have gone even more probably, or just the same amount. Like that would have been insane. You're like, what the hell? Barack Obama playing Fortnite? You're gonna click that, right?
Yeah.
So I think more credit was due to Ninja, but then. I don't know. The spotlight curse has hit another one.
Yeah, but so yeah, let's move on. I think we've exhausted that topic. So moving on to the second topic we will be talking about is racism, sexism, etc. in esports. Now, we've been seeing this a lot more. I think recently, it's always been there. It's been there for a long time in the gaming community and the esports community. But I think especially with the professionalism with like Riot Games creating franchise systems and Overwatch League happening, and just more and more people and eyes on esports and a young audience involved in that, people keep saying stupid stuff in public. I mean, in private, yes, but in public, especially, like, oh my gosh, people like watch what you say. So just to fill you in on just some recent events, I think the 2 latest things that happened were Ninja dropped the N-word on his stream accidentally.
On Nadeshot's stream, I'm pretty sure.
Was it Nadeshot's stream?
Oh, I'm not even 100% sure if Ninja was streaming. I just know that
it happened.
The point of view that I saw the video was Nadeshot doing with Ninja, and Ninja dropped the N-word in a because he was rapping, and he ended up saying the N-word in a rap that doesn't even
have the N-word.
And it's just like, it's like, damn it, you know. And he's like, oh, I got tongue twisted, and it's like, okay, but say Ninja, you know, don't say what you shouldn't say, because it's hurtful to so many people, right?
Yeah.
It's so, I mean, I think that was the big one. And there was like radio silence for a couple of days, and then he had an apology.
Yeah,
he tweeted out an apology, which again, I respect him for the way he did it. I just don't think he should have done it.
Sure, sure. I mean, I've seen people that talk about streaming that are like, I've streamed for 1,400 hours and I've never had a difficulty not saying a racial slur. Like, it's not that hard. But then you know, there's been instances of this all over esports in the history of esports. You know, even with League of Legends, we have a few players that have been banned. Svenskeren, Mythy, and Nuke Duck are the ones that come to mind, and they've all pretty much been reformed. People don't like think about that anymore or associate that with them anymore. It's not just a Western thing. I know Khan in Korea had this happen as well with Chinese players or the Chinese community. So, and I mean, in Overwatch recently, we had this happen with Eco and Taimu that have said some very insensitive stuff. Some of them more,
and Eco didn't even say it.
Yeah,
right. It was more of a
did the slanty eye gesture on stream.
Yeah, which this has happened even in traditional sports, right? There was again it keeps going, but I don't know. I think Ecos hurt the most because when I read the article, it's like, oh yeah, he was born in Colombia and raised in Israel, and I was like, yeah, it hits home, right? I'm Colombian and all that, but doing something like that is just disrespectful in all points. Like I don't think you would ever do that to compliment someone, which he said he was complimenting Korean players because of how good they were. You don't do that, right? I'm sorry, right? And it's like, I don't know. It's tough, especially because we're minorities, right?
Yeah.
Like me and you are minorities.
If you're not watching us on video, I'm Asian, Manny's Colombian. So like, yes.
I'm Colombian, Latino, right? I do look Asian. So I have like a double edged, like, oh, where are you from? And it's like, oh, okay, well, it's tough, right? I mean, again, just because I look Asian doesn't mean I'm going to say something that is good. No, like that doesn't give you an excuse, right? It's like, oh, I'm a minority, so I could say, no, that doesn't give you an excuse either, right? Like, I think there's no handbook, there's no rule book that says this is what you can and can't say, but just use common sense, you know? Like, it's not just against race, right? Overwatch League has had a lot of issues with anti-gay, homophobic, like people saying stuff, views, and
we've heard inappropriate comments about like female interviewers. It's all over the place, and to every extent of the range of what you shouldn't say.
Yeah, it's awful. I mean, just I think it's interesting because I think the most recent thing in NALCS, which is what we usually cover, was our boy Locodoco, right? That was the latest one, which was this year. Cool. Before that, I don't think I've seen, aside from maybe Weldon Green's comments 2 years ago, when he was with TSM, he made some comments against Koreans that backfired on him. But aside from that, I don't think NALCS has had huge scandals in terms of racial, we have now players that have involved within Svenskeren, Mythy, right? That have, but that was when they were in EU. And people are just like, man, League of Legends is so toxic, and it really is. Like, some people in that game are really toxic. But then you go to the Overwatch League and it's like they're less than a year old and they've had over like a dozen incidents. And it's like, and this is not me trying to bash Overwatch. It's like, oh, see, Overwatch is but like, maybe it is an organization thing, right? Maybe these players just still don't understand that they're in something that's bigger than themselves, right?
Yeah.
And I think also a huge issue has been the popularity of Twitch, right? Of, wow, I can stream. And then it's like, oh yeah, 600 people are watching my stream, whatever. That's 600 people. Some people on Twitter don't even have 50 followers. You have 600 people like concurrently like watching your stream, and then you do something like that that offends one person, immediately gets leaked, right?
Yeah.
Or people want to see you fall, immediately gets leaked, right? Clipped. And So I don't know. I think it's stupid in all regards that we still keep seeing this, right? And I have a list of other things to talk about, but I kind of want to hear your take on it.
Yes,
kind of like your perspective.
So one of the things I want to, there's 2 points I want to make, I guess, before I hand it off. One, like, where did this all come from, right? And I think it's interesting because a lot of these heated moments, I think of the PewDiePie incident. He's a gaming YouTuber. Like, he said the N-word because he was just trying, well, what he said is he was trying to think of the worst thing to call this person, right? And I kind of get that. And maybe he had no racist intent, but you still said it. Like, where is this all coming from? Are people racist, And the interesting thing about this is I think it's happening with so many young players, right? And I think what happens is that they might have been so far removed from like the actual meaning of these words or the hurtfulness. And instead they're growing up in a time of the internet where you just see people just saying all this stuff, right? There's no repercussions. People say it, you hear it in all your music, you hear it people make very like off-putting jokes to that's a sense of humor, right? Just shock value. Like, people say these things and it's like, oh, I'm funny, I'm trying to do what other people have done. It's not a big deal because I'm entrenched in hearing this kind of language all the time or seeing this kind of behavior all the time. So then when you put them on a platform where they have a louder voice and a lot more attention, they're like, oh, it's bad to say, but it's like naturally part of my vocabulary. And then it comes out because you're just in the moment. When you're streaming 8 hours, like, you're not performing for 8 hours. You're letting your like real self come out. And then vocabulary slips out when you're like, whoops, I wasn't supposed to say that. So like, what do you think? Are some of these people like actually racist? Are these actions actually a sign of their racism? Or is it just something that a lot of people are saying, like, it's not a big deal, they're just words, it doesn't mean anything?
I mean, I think that in itself is hard to say, just because, for example, Ninja's case, right? Was Ninja racist? I don't know him, right? Like, this is no flame to him at all, right? But I don't know him. I don't know his conversation when the camera goes off, right? What if he is racist, right? But he has this very nice persona that he's. I'm not saying it's true, but what if, right? I mean, look at what Dr. disrespected, right? He cheated on his wife. The way he handled it, I wasn't okay with. I mean, again, just cheating on your wife, that's awful already, right? And do I think he's an awful human being? Not really. I mean, he does even some borderline racist stuff, right? And yeah, sometimes I find it funny, like, but do I think he's racist? I don't know, right? The fact, though, I've seen streamers that have streamed longer than Ninja, longer than Dr. Disrespect. Take a look at Shroud. Take a look at I'm a Cutie Pie. I'm a Cutie Pie is the one I've seen the longest, right? He hasn't said that, and he puts rap that has it, right? And he doesn't sing those parts, and he's Cuban, I'm pretty sure, right? And to some people, it's like, oh well, Cuban. Oh, I'm kind of Latino, so kind of. Cutie Pie doesn't fuck with that, right? He doesn't do that.
Yeah.
So he streams shit ton. Right? So I agree. He's showing his true self, but he doesn't say it, right? Can he say it off camera? Sure he can. Do I think he does? I don't really see it that often, right? Maybe when he is like singing or rapping to himself, right? Or something. Maybe at that point I do. But I still like, I don't know. I think it's kind of like what you were saying, right? You're raised like that. You kind of are desensitized to these words, right? I lived half my life here, and I lived half my life in Colombia, here in the United States, here, and then in Colombia, right?
Yeah.
And I was kind of like always the outcast, because when I was here, well, I'm not from the US, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, all right, whatever. But then you start hearing these words when you're around, right? And then when I was Colombia, it's like, well, you're not Colombian. You've lived in the US your whole life, right? You're a gringo. And it's like, okay. it's kind of like, I don't have an accent in either language. It's like all this, like, who are you type of thing, right? And it's like, I was like racially bullied in my high school, which is in Colombia, and it's like, I am Colombian, right? And again, this goes back to like, well, people are so desensitized by it, right? and they don't realize, or they don't see once like someone that can be offended a lot from it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people are just cruel. I like, there's very few good people in the world.
Yeah.
I think the majority are Canadian, but even then, right? Like you still have like that xenophobic thing. And I mean, again, Korean players are known for this, right? They've been like, oh, all these Chinese like Smurf accounts, like they're fucking up this game, like it's stuff they've said. And the LCK is like, oh, you can't say that. Yeah. No, right? China's a good market for us. You're not doing this, right? And I think it's just it's tough to say, right? I don't know if they're necessarily. I think it's hard. It's hard to say, right? But some people are. I'll it might not be Ninja, but some people are. I'd like PewDiePie. He did say he was thinking of the worst thing to call someone. If to him that's the worst thing to call someone, to me that's racist.
Okay. Right? Yeah.
That's how I would view it. Because if you're going to use the N-word with like a hard R and stuff, and you think that is the absolute worst thing you could call someone, that's how low you think of the word, and you still used it.
Yeah.
To me, that's like, that could be borderline.
Yeah. And I definitely think like we've talked about a lot of things, and I definitely want anyone that's listening to do their research on like the name drops we've done, because some of these I think are not as big of a deal as others. Some of them actually I feel like are not malicious, and some of them are, right? So I'll give one example that I can speak on personally, is the eco thing, right? He talks about his skills were compared to Korean players. He found that like flattering, and he's like, oh no, I am Korean, like kind of playing along. And then he pulls his eyes back and does a slanty eye thing, right? And I looked at the situation. He's a young kid. My guess at what was going on is like, I'm going to do an impression because I'm going to act Korean. And so I pull my eyes back. Like, I really don't think there's any harm in that. He wasn't like making an accent, making fun of Korean players. He's like, oh, I'm Korean, so that's my association with Koreans. So what I saw on that is just like, let's see, how can I say this better? Yeah, it was just an association, and it wasn't malicious, right? And some of these examples are a lot more malicious, where we hear an Overwatch player on stream just saying, like, calling people anti-gay terms, like over just shouting them in chat because he was just upset, like for 10 seconds or something like that. I don't remember which one in my research, but that happened. I was like, whoa, that is not okay. That is not okay. That's super malicious. Now, for my own experience in that, or hearing like racial slurs against Asian people, the reason why that affects me is, hey, I grew up with people calling me that very maliciously, like kids picking on you, because kids can be cruel. Even in high school, even in college, you see that. Actually, I've seen that like last week or like last month, where someone just like yelled it out of a car passing by. I'm like, seriously, are we like in the 80s or something? What is going on? So because that word actually meant something in the past and is still used maliciously, it's like, I don't care what your intent is, because I don't know what your intent is, and I don't know what your biases coming into that word is, right? I've had like other Asians like drop that word, and like, especially when you talk about the Black community dropping the N-bomb with each other. I'm not going to speak for them, but they do that. Asian communities, I've seen that. I don't know how comfortable I am with it, but like I make jokes about Asian people with other Asian people, or I should say about Koreans, like amongst my own Koreans, because I know there's not really the malicious intent in that. And that's why I can like own up that word or own up those jokes. But people outside of that, like maybe good friends I'd be okay with, but I have no idea what your intent is. And it's because of the weight that brings in my life and my culture and my community. Like, that's why for me, like, I don't want to hear that stuff. And then when it comes to other minority communities or other, like even women with all the sexism, like I feel for them. I can't say that I understand, like I can't speak for them, but I can at least say like, hey, if I know people that aren't okay with that, like, I don't think that's okay. And again, people are desensitized to it. It's just words that like people say, it doesn't mean anything. Well, it doesn't mean anything to you, but it means something. It means a lot to not just like one person that's overly sensitive. It means a lot to a large enough community where I believe we should be respectful. And if we're not, then we're kind of either ignorant or just kind of being assholes to people. And I'm not about that.
Right. And I think the other big thing is that like we said, we are talking more esports centric, right?
Yeah.
Where esports is filled with a lot younger people, right? So I know that you bring this topic outside, people are like, oh damn, millennials, so snowflakes, you pretty little snowflakes. So, and it's like, I think just people are more aware that things are not okay. It's like, oh, I'm sorry that because in the 60s what you called this group of people is no longer okay. You say, oh, you're oversensitive. It's like, I don't know if that's how it works, right? I don't think that. And with how things are now, I feel like it's just, I agree with you. I mean, with friends, with close friends, like, yeah, they'll make jokes towards like, like Colombians, Latinos, whatever. I'm like, laugh it off, right? But like, if I don't know someone and they do that, I'm like, that's malicious, right? Even if it's not, because I'd rather be ready for it to be malicious than be like, wait, that guy actually meant to hurt me, right? Like when it's some other stranger, right? I think it's kind of like a defense mechanism as well. And again, I've gotten it from like all angles. It's like, oh yeah, you look Asian, well this, and I'm like, I'm not Asian, but I'll take offense to that for all my Asian friends, right? Like that's kind of messed up, right? So, I mean, and again, yeah, like with friends, when you're kind of like poking fun at your own race or your own like nation, I think it's more okay in the terms of it's kind of more self-objective, like you're looking at your own nation like through another lens or something, kind of deal. I don't know, but yeah, I think organizations really need to, especially with these younger players, they need to go through kind of like a Twitch training in terms of you've been streaming, right? That's totally cool, but understand we have sponsors, we have this. Whatever you say will affect us, so just be cautious. If you're about to say something, just take a breath, right? Like go through mindset training, like mindfulness, right? Yeah. Like that way you're aware of what you're gonna say, even if it's in the heat of the moment, right? Like sure, in the heat of the moment, there's been times where, because of where I grew up, when I grew up, that I would say things that are, that are slurs, right? And I'm just like, that's not cool, right? Even if I mutter them to myself and no one's in the room, I'm like, Manny, that's stupid. Like, why would you say that? That's not cool. It's 2018, right? Like, that's when the meme comes in.
Yeah, I this is something that I want to talk about and flesh out more, because you mentioned organizations. Like if you're any brand, if you're an amateur brand, if you're a podcaster and you have other people that are podcasting with you, I really think if there's any time you have people representing a brand, something more than just yourself, although I think as a solo person, you should do this as well. Like it's really important, I think, for organizations to put an actual training and put like legitimacy to like having this conversation, because these things blow up and they hurt. You lose brands, you lose sponsorships, you lose monetary value that ends up hurting your whole organization. Just kicking off a person doesn't solve a problem when you're like, oh, this person's racist, or they said something poor, or they represented the brand poorly. Like that doesn't just get fixed. And yeah, the internet forgets about things quickly, but also marketers don't. People that want you to represent them, they don't forget that kind of stuff. And it's really scary. So I actually think that it's very, very important for organizations to take this seriously and take responsibility for like having that like PR training class. Like if you've worked in a job, like a professional job, one of the first things I had to do was go through like these stupid like 20-minute, 30-minute presentations that I clicked through and answer a quiz. And like, all right, now I'm like PR trained, or all right, now I know like safety training, not to like walk under ladders at work, or like to watch for ice in the parking lot. And there's a reason why they do this. It's to protect the company and to protect the individuals. And I think organizations really need to be like, hey guys, we're going to talk for 15 minutes because I know all of you think this is common sense, but we're going to actually talk about like, what does sexual harassment look like? Like, can you actually say this about another man or another woman, or can you act this way? Because I think that's one area that people, especially guys, just have like no awareness of. At any age.
Goddamn stupid. They're like, haha, I could do this. And it's like, or you don't do that, and ask before you do it, or you just don't, right?
That is not consent. That is not a yes. Like, come on, people. But like, seriously, because these kids are so young and everyone comes from different upbringings, like you don't know what people learned, and you don't know what kind of habits they picked up, again, in a very toxic internet environment where people say what they want to say because they have the protection of anonymity. Like, they just think that this is okay or it's not a big deal, when you need to be like, hey, let's sit down 15 minutes. Here's a slideshow. What is okay? What is not okay? This is okay. This is not okay. This is how you deal with your anger instead of doing this. Like, there needs to be actual training. Like, make it actually professional. Like, this is what you cannot do on these big points, because it's happening so much. Like, it's easy. Just talk about it, make it a legit thing, and then you're going to reduce like this issue by 80%, at least publicly, like protecting yourself as an organization. And also, let's be real, helping these kids learn how to be adults. Like,
I mean, again, and once they go solo, or if you're solo and you're happening to listen to this, and you're like, you are your own brand.
Mm-hmm.
That's as simple. Ninja, it's a brand. Shroud, brand. Sneaky is a brand. PewDiePie, brand, right? They might be associated with teams, but they themselves are their own brand, right? And that's where, like, again, like, just the smartness comes in. It's like, if you don't know how to do this, if you don't know how to be prepared, seek for help, right?
Yeah.
There's people that will do it pro bono, and there's people that will charge you for it, right? Like, depending on where you are in the spectrum, you go for it. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy. And again, like, the upbringing of children, it's like tough. And I mean, hell, I remember growing up playing Call of Duty. Well, I was like 14, and I heard 10-year-olds screaming at me, "Oh, you racial slur! I just fucked your mom!" And I'm just like,
my mom's so easy. What the heck?
I was like, wow, you're the 20th person to say that. Maybe I need to talk to her. It's just it's kind of like, again, the once you're anonymous, that's why 4chan is known as this toxic cyst of internet that you should never go into, because once no one knows who you are, that's when you're like, oh, I could be my true self. I've always wanted to call this person a racial slur, and it's like, that's that, or maybe don't do that, because that's messed up.
I mean, right? I wouldn't even say true self. It just brings out a self that's like, I have no consequence, because when you throw out any consequences, people do stupid stuff that I don't think are themselves either. But maybe the worst potential of themselves. But oh my gosh, like, doesn't help.
And I think it's tough. And again, I think, I mean, we've covered like the good portion of even our topics here, right? I think my main concern is that I don't see an end in sight, right? And I don't really see people learning. It's like, oh, doctor disrespects you on his wife, and it's like, that's messed up. When are we gonna have the next scandal, right? Half the scandals we talked about happened within the first 4 months of the year. It's like, what? Like, hello? Maybe PewDiePie, that happened like a year ago, or maybe like 2 years ago now. But didn't people see that? Right? Didn't that register in people's mind that, hey, PewDiePie lost a shit ton of sponsorships because he said something really fucked up? Maybe I shouldn't do that, right? And I think it also comes down to what you yourself think is bad. And like, it might not mean something to you, but once your personality, it means something to someone else, right? And that's why it's like, you can't be perfect. You can't dodge everything. That's fair. Just make it as hard as possible for that to happen. Right. I think would be my big final point of like, do you think there's something questionable that you can say? Just don't say it, because if it comes back to bite you, then you're fine, right? It's like the internet forgets easily, but it remembers forever at the same time, right? Like, people are like, oh, remember when this guy said this? Boom, immediately gets posted. And it's like, like the Sven Skarens thing happened even before I was part of the League of Legends community. I found out about it because people kept memeing about it, kept joking about it. Like 3 years down the line, I was like, yikes, right? Like,
Yeah.
So I think it's tough, especially when there's such a microscope kind of like on you as a personality.
Yeah, I think when we talk about like how does it end or if it ends, like I don't think this issue ends. Like if you look at just history, maybe racism's not a big of a deal, which I actually don't agree with. It just looks different, right? But it gets transferred to something else because now it's not about race, it's about gender, and now it's not about gender, it's about like sexual orientation. Okay, now it's not about sexual orientation. It keeps going, right?
Yeah, it ends up being, oh, you're a Mac user? Well, fuck you, right? Like, it's a joke, but at the same time, right? It's like people will always find something to be better than at someone, and then like bring that other someone down. Yeah, I think it's messed up.
Yeah, and I think like as this continues, what my hope is actually like not that we see. Well, I do hope to see less of this. I don't think it will happen. What I want to see is that people's reaction to it. I think that I would like to see the public's reaction to this being like, no, that is wrong. Like, but also understanding like with the whole ninja thing, he was rapping, he dropped the N-word, wasn't with a hard R. The song didn't have it in there, but I actually get that because holy crap, like I've almost caught myself because I'm singing along with a song. I'm like, wait, there's an N-word right there. Like, ooh, that was like, I don't say that word. And that almost slipped out just because media has all this stuff ingrained into our heads. That being said, you deal with it how I believe like Ninja dealt with it. Like I thought he dealt with it well. I'm perfectly fine with people being racist openly and then being like, oh crap, like I've made a mistake. But I want it to be a real apology. I think we've seen some fake stuff, some real stuff, but I want the public's reaction to be like, that was not okay. Thank you for that apology. Not, what's the big deal? This is not a big deal. It's just a word like that I want to see changed. And I think that is possible, but it's a continual uphill battle that will always be uphill. That's what I think.
And I completely agree. And just to like finish off and like kind of like bounce off of that, it's like, I don't hate Ninja, right? Yeah. Again, he fucked up. He fucked up huge, right? And people were mad, and I'm glad they were mad. I also agree. It's like, oh, but right, like it wasn't this variation of the word. He still said it. Like at the end of the day, he still said it. There's no excuses, right? I honestly think there are no excuses. He said that word. Ended up saying it. He apologized, right? And then you see how the community reacts. But you don't have to necessarily force it to be like, oh, we need Ninja's head, right? And it's tough. It's tough. But I agree. I mean, I think this is as much as we can stretch it out for now. If you are someone that has felt attacked, whatever race you are, whatever gender you are, and you want to talk about this, please, I mean,
hit us up on Twitter
and do so. Yeah, I mean, we would love to have you, or we'd love to even just have a conversation on Twitter about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, just wrapping up this episode, we're gonna be doing more of these topical stuff where we just cover current events and how it relates to League of Legends esports, or just our opinions on it. Like Manny said, let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Completely disagree with us, let's start an argument, or better word, discussion. Hit us up on Twitter. Our handles are right below our faces or in the episode description. If you guys have any suggestions on topics that are popping up, we will try to do these weekly. So let us know. Just reach out. And there's tons of ways to do that. So thanks for listening to this episode of the Eye of the Watchers, where we're giving you all the insight and support you need to get hyped about League of Legends esports. See you guys next time.
Peace.